Is this on? Is this on? Holy crap. It actually works. Oh man, I spent forever to get this thing working. Alright, so, audio log number 1, here we go. My name is... My name doesn't really matter. I'm not even sure when the last time my name was used. Definitely before this shit show happened. Regardless, I've been on this godforsaken island for... I don't even know. Time is so wonky here, I'm not even sure this is even an island. But all of that I can get into later. If anything, but for my own sake, I should probably start from the beginning. Keep everything all together, and in order, unlike those explorer's notes that are scattered everywhere. God, they're a pain to find. At least I can control this aspect of my life. I'm getting ready to leave this place, at least that's what the notes are pointing at. I really hope it's the way home. Anyway, I'm rambling again. Right, the beginning. I don't know how long ago it was, and honestly, I stopped counting the days not long after first waking up. The last thing I remember before the island was going to sleep in my bed, in my home, on Earth, where dinosaurs had been dead for millions of years. Did I mention that this island was infested with dinosaurs? No? Well, it's a paleontologist's wet dream here. Jurassic Park, eat your heart out. Though, if you've got this audio log, you probably already noticed. So yeah, went to bed, and next thing I knew, I was waking up on a beach with a dodo of all things staring at me. All my clothes were gone, underwear replaced by some cloth, and some metal diamond chip implanted into my arm. I'm pretty sure I had a panic attack. My memory is pretty hazy though. I do remember that stupid dodo would keep following me around and chirping at me. I snapped out of it when the sun had begun to set. Surely it hadn't been that long, a couple of hours at most. But for the entire day to have disappeared like that, it couldn't be right. Of course, I didn't think that at the time. Motivated by panic and the less than friendly dinosaurs pottering around, I had quickly gathered together some of the nearby foliage and made a ramshackle lean-to. Thank you, Bear Grylls. I'll never make fun of you drinking piss ever again. I didn't sleep that night. I sat curled up on the sand with the dodo snuggled against me. It reminded me of my cat. God, I miss my cat. I hope he's okay. Seeing as the dodo was sticking around, I named him after my cat, Mr. Mango. Eventually the morning came for Mr. Mango and me. I was tired but alive. Alive and very far from home with the intent of getting back there. The day was spent making a safe space. A lean-to wasn't going to keep out those spitting dinosaurs or the massive turtles. Well, I suppose they're tortoises, aren't they? With Mr. Mango following behind the entire time, I was able to construct a very basic thatch hut. It wasn't much, but it was mine. By the time the last wall went up, 2 more dodos had started following too. Keeping up the naming convention, I called them Peaches and Kiwi. Kiwi had green feathers. I actually got sleep that night. Admittedly, it came in short bursts, but I felt a bit more reassured by the presence of the dodos. Sure, they may historically be dumb, but they survived this long. If they could relax, so could I. The next morning I exited my hut to find one of those spitting dinos chowing down on a dodo. Not one of mine, they were still in the hut. But it was clear that I needed a weapon. I already had a crude pick and axe that I had made the day before to construct my hut, but I needed something better. A spear. It was just a couple of sticks with pointy stones tied to the end, but it was a weapon that put space between me and the spitting dino. By the time I had finished the spears, the dinosaur had gone, along with the dodo's body. Good riddance. I wanted to prolong my first conflict for as long as possible. With the carnivore gone, my dodos happily left the hut and started foraging through the bushes, picking berries with their little beaks and making their silly little noises. At that point I realised how hungry I had become. It had been, 3 days I think, since I had last eaten? Trusting the dodos, I picked and ate the berries with them, avoiding the black and white ones like the birds were. A good hour was spent collecting more berries, and the rest of the day was spent constructing a basic bed. Like most of my new home, it wasn't much, but it was mine. The dodos liked it too. They slept snuggled against my legs. It was cute. They still do it. I'll miss them. With a belly full of berries and something soft beneath my head, I slept like the dead that night. The next several days were spent upgrading my hut. Grass walls weren't going to keep the dinosaurs out forever, and the dodos had already pecked a hole through one of them. Keeping a spear or two at hand and the dodos nearby, I set off to the tree line and started taking down trees. I was relying that the dodos weren't as stupid as they were said to have been, seeing as they were the only pre-warning against predators I had. I was working on the roof of my now mostly wooden hut when the duck-faced herbivores began honking. The others of its kind, parasaurs I would later come to find, began to scatter and run, as too did my dodos. I barely had enough time to grab my spear when the velocifriggin' raptor appeared through the scrub. It was a scrawny raptor, but that didn't stop it from being a deadly killing machine that I was most certainly not ready to deal with. In the end, I was pretty sure that it was the dodos that had saved me from my untimely end. The raptor had completely bypassed me in favour of the dodos that were bumbling around on the beach. It must have been old or malnourished. It was slow and weak, going down after I threw my spear into its body. A myriad of emotions passed through me the moment the raptor hit the ground. Relief, the dodos and I were safe. Disgust, revulsion, guilt. I'd just killed a living creature. Grief. Was this really to be my new reality? I didn't want to deal with any carnivores attracted by the body of the raptor, and I wasn't quite ready to go full Bear Grylls and carve up the body. So with some effort I dragged the body to the ocean and let the fishes have their way. I finished the roof, and using the remaining logs that didn't quite fit, I made an SOS on the beach. I'd been gone almost a week. People surely had to be looking for me by now. And if I had remembered correctly, the best way to be found was to stay put. And stay put I did. The rest of the afternoon was spent locked inside the newly wooden hut with my in-one-piece dodos surrounding me. It was around this time that the number of days would become irrelevant. My focus now was to survive until my rescuers arrived. I expanded my hut, making it larger and adding a floor. I don't even know how I knew how to do that. Of course, I know now that it was the implant in my arm that had something to do with it. From the seeds I found foraging through the bushes, I began a garden, as well as cultivating some of the black berries the dodos wouldn't eat. I found out they were a type of sedative after Kiwi went ham on the pile of berries that were half sorted and conked out for a good hour. Figured it would be a good idea to have a supply of knockout berries on hand. I was able to befriend one of the duck-billed herbivores. It seemed like a good idea to have one on side, seeing as they were pretty damn good at detecting and warning against threats. I called him Skipper. Oh yeah, and I made up some basic cloth clothes. I did that pretty early on, actually. Another one of those I didn't realise I knew how to do things. But cloth probably wasn't going to cut it for too long, especially with how many of those spitting dinosaurs roamed the beaches I called home. I would need armour, and for armour I would at least need leather, and to get leather I would need to hunt. I decided to go with 2 birds, 1 stone and hunt the spitting dinos. The dilophosaurs. I made a bow and some arrows. There was no way I was going anywhere near the range of the dilos' stomach acid spittle, and I had dabbled in archery during summer camps as a child. I mean, really I could stand on the roof of my hut and shoot the dilos down if needs be. I spent a couple of days practicing with the bow and making any needed adjustments. When I was ready to begin the hunt, I got the dodos safely into my hut, with some berries to keep them occupied, and set off with Skipper trailing behind. I didn't want anything sneaking up behind me. The first dilo did not go down easily. I got the first hit in, but the arrow sunk uselessly into the meat of its body, and in return I almost got a full face of venom. I was able to dodge most of it, but some still got into my eyes. I was able to blink it out fast enough to line up another shot and take down the dilo with another arrow to the head. I almost called it quits after that, but what use would that be? I needed to make my temporary home safe, and I needed to get myself my own protection. If that meant my eyes would be stinging for a little while, so be it. I cleared my little section of beach of the dilophosaurs. Sure, they'll probably be back at a later date, but the place was safe for now. I got the bodies back to my house and began skinning them. It was definitely a huge jump from dissecting rats in high school. I got a fair amount of meat and leather. The latter was set to dry on the roof of the hut. The former was placed around my campfire to cook and hopefully conserve for a while longer. Dinosaur meat certainly has an interesting taste to it. I would say that the herbivores taste slightly better. With leather now available, it was time to craft some armour and to start venturing out. But first it seemed like a good idea to try and get some of the more carnivorous dinos on my side. Early warning was good and all, but I needed something that could fight back alongside me. I had a pretty decent supply of narco berries by now, and perhaps by combining some of them with the raw meat, I could convince some of the dinos to stick around. But that will have to wait for the next audio log. My dinos need feeding and I need to start getting supplies ready for the trip to the cave. I'll probably scout it out with Hermes in the next couple of days and maybe find a location for a forward base. If the artifact caves and boss fights taught me anything, I'm going to need good gear. And lots of it. This has been nice. It feels good to talk to someone again. Even if you can't talk back, it's nice knowing that someone knows that I existed and what I've been through. I feel lighter. If there isn't a recording after this one, I probably died on that scouting trip. I hope that isn't the case. But we'll see, I guess.